And welcome back to the Always Be Building Show, sponsored by Dynasty Football Factory Network. I am Stephen Chalmers, joined as always by the partner on the right side of the screen, Mr. Ryan Odell. Deli, say what's up to the people, baby.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show. Took the week off. Sorry about that. Me and Steve both have way too much going on right now. But, most importantly, football's back for us as podcasters. We've been pumped for week one. We've been doing a whole bunch of off-season stuff. It's finally getting to in-season talk. Tonight's the first night we're doing our weekly series where we recap. So typically, we're going to play around with things and see how things move. But for our first show tonight, we're going to do our booms of the week. So players that are your top performers coming off your bench or later round players that you can look forward to later on in the season, helping you win, and then cover some games and then go with the busts of the week and what to do about that, panic level and all that stuff. We're excited for this series to get started off. This is our first structured show as a duo here, so we're excited. And we hope you are too.
Yeah, week one was what's the word I'm looking for? Things didn't go how I expected them to go in week one, but it is week one. A lot of teams don't play in the preseason. Sloppy football. It was very sloppy all the way around. So. With that, I just want to do some recaps of some games, some things I saw in games. So the first game is going to be the Steelers game, Steelers-Falcons game. I want to say Kirk Cousins does not look healthy. I watched him take every snap in that game. And I'll be honest with you, his drops, like his 3-step, 5-step drops out of the under center or out of the shotgun, doesn't matter however you want to look at it. Very slow, very timid. Doesn't seem like he's planting his foot, throwing off of his foot, like getting everything in his throwing motion right.
Yeah.
And it just didn't look good. Kirk Cousins didn't look good at all. I just want to bring that up.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins looked rough that game. Definitely, you can tell, not 100% comfortable with that Achilles just yet. You're going to see it hurt him for a little bit. I hope it's something that he can work out as the season goes on because, with the weapons he has, you'd like to see all this click together and see Bijan and Drake London and Kyle Pitts finally do what they're supposed to do. But obviously, since what I've seen from week one, it's going to take a little bit of time to get what we're looking for. And I hope we can get to that at some point in the season where he's not so timid on the injury.
Yeah. To flip the script, though, I thought Aaron Rodgers actually looked pretty decent coming back, even though he played a tough game in San Fran on the road.
Yeah.
Two of those drive ending turnovers, one being the Breece Hall fumble, the other being an interception that fell off the hands of Allen Lazard, and then a 4th down conversion that didn't go their way with Garrett Wilson. Three drive ending plays like that, down 2 scores, that matters in games. It does. It matters in games. I thought Aaron Rodgers looked pretty good for not playing football since last year.
Well, a year and a half now.
Yeah. I think he looked really good. The San Francisco 49ers are a unit. They're a tough team to beat. All at home, too. You have McCaffrey out, and you have Jordan Mason step in for almost 150 rushing yards. It was a good overall game plan. They were simple. They did what they needed to do, and that was it. Nobody really shined in that game outside of Jordan Mason and Debo. Debo had a good game.
Yeah, I was about to say, you saw this team go out there and beat the Jets. Not beat the Jets down. They won by 6. Nonetheless, Brock Purdy didn't do a whole lot at the quarterback position. He didn't have to do much. He let the defense do their job and took care of the ball. And, you saw what happened. I think this is what the 49ers team is going to be. A system where as long as Brock Purdy takes care of the ball, the 49ers are going to be rolling. Their defense is an absolute unit. These are Super Bowl contenders. It's right out the gate, they're looking great.
Any other thing that stood out to you?
Yeah, there's a few disappointments in this as a whole. Like Brandon Ayuk, from what we saw from him last year, with career highs and yards, and kept taking that step year in from when he started as a rookie. And first week to see not a whole lot from him is a little concerning. I think he took all the way in the middle of the second quarter to get his first catch of the game. So I'd see him get going. Other than that, Jordan Mason looked great on a spot start, even though whatever he said, he said that he was told he was going to start Friday. Whatever's going on there, I don't know. But he came out there and served his role. not much on the passing game, but as a rusher, you can get one over 150 on 28 carries. That's something right.
Yeah, I do want to go back to the Falcons game. So we all remember the debacle with Arthur Smith. We remember the Bijan Robinson, target share, touch share, running back opportunity share. Those numbers weren't good. So in week 1, we saw Bijan Robinson handle 92% of the running back snaps, had 5 targets, 5 catches, 18 carries. Those are the touches we want for Bijan Robinson.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he didn't score. This Falcons offense they just didn't look good. So, but as the season goes on, Bijan Robinson is the main focal point for Raheem Morris and Zach Robinson in this Falcons offense. So the volume is what you want to see. The last thing I want to point out from the games earlier, the early slate, one being Buffalo. I know we talked about Josh Allen and how he was going to have to adapt with losing Stephon Diggs and losing that true number 1 target. But 4 touchdowns, this man put the Buffalo Bills on his back.
Yeah.
Every year, it just seems like Josh Allen gets better and better in situations that he needs to improve in. Remember last year, we talked about going into the year, it was Josh Allen and his red zone turnovers. It was a big, big thing for me when it came to Josh Allen's evaluation. He fixed that. He only had 3 as opposed to 15 the year prior.
Yep.
And this year?
Not in the red zone last year either.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So this year, Josh Allen, starting off week 1, we expected a high-scoring game from Arizona, and it was. It was the highest overall point total on the slate. And Josh Allen did his thing, man. Put up a 34-piece at home, gets a W against Arizona. It wasn't pretty at all times, but 4 total touchdowns for your QB1 in fantasy football. Can't beat it.
Yeah, look, he's this whole Buffalo team. And I think typically, like, the more you doubt Josh Allen, like, the better he plays for some reason. I feel like it's always been that way. Especially I think he was completely counted out until we got Stephon Diggs and got all this hate. First 2 years weren't great. They bring Diggs in, he exploded off the list. And then this year, we saw him a lot depart in this offense. Stephon Diggs is gone now. I mean, that's a big adaptation for him. And he went out there week 1 and proved that he doesn't need him. I mean, 4 scores, 230 yards passing, 39 on the ground. I mean, dude, just a tank. He literally puts his buyer on the line to get in the red zone, in the end zone for this team. And I've never had a problem. That's always been QB1 for a while now for me. And he once again proves why. So,
yeah. Lastly, anybody that's banking on James Cook to score in the red zone, it's not going to happen.
Nope.
I will say, though, I love the volume. 21 or 22 overall touches for James Cook. That's huge. Huge volume for a running back, especially a guy that's his size. There was really no running back competition outside of that. The top carrier behind him was 3 carries from Ray Davis. James Cook's on the field early and often. Volume is king. Chase the volume. But unfortunately, if you want James Cook to score, that's really not going to happen in the red zone.
No, it's got to be either a long run or a catch that gets him in the end zone, because they do not use him on the goal. They haven't, and they continue to do the same. Like, it's just not going to happen. I could have told you the same thing last year about James Cook, but the volume's there, like Steven said, so we rely on that. Anything else from this game that we were missing here?
I want to cover just a little bit of the Detroit game, if that's okay.
Yeah, knock yourself out.
And then we'll go into our booms and our busts. So, the Detroit game, I must say, the Detroit Lions secondary and their offseason pickups look really good. Terry and Arnold, drafted. Obviously, pair him with Brian Branch. You bring in some free agent acquisitions at the DB position. They look really good. Matt Stafford had to throw the ball 49 times just to get 317 passing yards. So I want to say, kudos to them for building on their weaknesses to start the year is what they had last year.
Yeah.
But Jameson Williams really shocked me in that game. He was a focal point of the offense, and he was a game changer, game wrecker in that game. Amon St. Brown was blanketed all game. Only ended up with, 13 receiving yards? Sam Laporta blanketed. Outside of that, it was Jameson Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, and David Montgomery. Mm-hmm. That's how the Lions won the football game. And stellar O-line play. They're nasty.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think it's just how electric they are. They can kind of pick and choose. Like, okay, if you're going to cover a Monroe all game, then we're just going to go to our running backs and then we still have Jameson Williams, who's going to burn you on the outside. I mean, take your pick on this offense. I think, like what we were talking about the 49ers, I think this is another team that's just, I mean, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but a playoff team already. They were last year. I continue to say the same thing. Rams are a tough team. I know they lost Aaron Donald, which is a huge part of that defense, but McVay runs a solid unit there, and they went out there and beat them in OT without problems, without their wide receiver one or tight end one in action practically for most of the game.
Yeah, lastly, the last thing I want to talk about this, the touches went to Kyron Williams. He got the touches.
Yeah.
It was the efficiency.
Too much for the kick returner, punt returner takes, which
it was the efficiency.
I never bought into that anyway. I hope you didn't either, but
I don't think that Blake Corum is going to be blanketed out of this offense. But Kyron Williams, 2.8 yards per carry, you have to improve in that aspect. I know it's week one.
Sure.
I get it.
Yeah.
But that was the main question for you and I, was not that he's going to receive the volume, was what does the efficiency look like? Because last year, for him to be as relevant as he was, you can lead the league in running back touches. That's fine. But you have to replicate some kind of efficiency. And from the first week, we are nowhere near the 5 yards per carry we saw last year.
Yeah, not even close. The efficiency needs to be there. I mean, hopefully that comes. Blake Corum's still sitting there behind if anything needs to happen. But I think the most important thing from this game is, one, Cooper Kupp, who exploded back into the scene with 21 targets from Matt Stafford, 14 catches, 110 yards, and a touchdown. Look, he's right back into wide receiver one form from a couple years ago. And we just saw Puka go down for a few weeks in it with a late injury. Cooper Kupp, back all the way? What are we thinking here?
Oh, yeah, trust me. We'll talk about him a little bit later in the segment.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, if you drafted Cooper Kupp in the 5th round, 4th round, 5th round in that turn, congratulations. Congratulations.
He's back for anybody that doubted.
He's back. Oh, also, last thing I want to cover before we get into it. So ETN did fumble. He had a chance at a 2-touchdown day. He fumbled on the 1 yard line in the Miami game.
Tough fumble.
It was tough. Tough run. He was in the end zone. Ball just popped out. Okay, it happens. Yes, he was very inefficient on the ground. And yes, Tank Bigsby in his limited role was efficient on the ground. Do I expect him to eat into Travis Etienne's workload? No. No, I don't. No. I will say in that game, Bigsby was more efficient with the touches he was receiving. But it's Etienne's backfield. So I just want to point that out before we continue.
I mean, there's a few other games we could stay here and talk about. But for the most part, if you want to cover like complete fantasy duds as teams as a whole, Steelers, they were pretty much a bust. No touchdowns in that game. Anybody on the Giants is
do not put every offensive piece for the Pittsburgh Steelers in bust category, because George Pickens played extremely well.
Okay, what was the stat line?
We had 8 targets, 6 catches, 85 yards. But please remember, in this game, there's one play that stands out where he's one-on-one with A.J. Terrell. He beats him deep and was ruled down by contact. A.J. Terrell wasn't within 3 yards of George Pickens, and then he picks up another 25 yards after the fact. So, but what I wanted to see was the target volume. 32% target share in this game. Yeah. George Pickens is the alpha on this roster. He's going to be a monster. He might push for 1,400 receiving yards. It's very possible.
It's possible in an 18 game or 17 game season.
So,
Panthers as a whole, this might be the first quarterback Canales cannot save. Bryce Young, once again, looks rough out there week one. Kind of picked up where we left off last season. Couldn't really get anything going. They got blown out 47-10.
I do want to see the Chargers game, though, because we all know that as a division rival, New Orleans has always played Bryce Young well.
We'll see.
So let's go to Los Angeles. Let's play them. Let's play the Chargers.
Yeah, things are going.
This is a winnable game, honestly, because the Chargers didn't look good at all either, outside of J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah, true. The way they're running that team is rough. They're not really letting Herbert throw the ball downfield. I will say, Joe Alt in his first ever start at right tackle dominated Khalil Mack. Dominated. Looking like a good pick. Take care of the franchise quarterback.
Dominated.
And then
I'm
Giants.
sorry. Excuse me. Not Khalil Mack. Max Crosby. Excuse me. Dominated Max Crosby. So shout out to him.
Anything else you want to cover before we move on to our boom?
Yeah. Yes, I do. Lastly, if you're looking at the Bengals Patriots overall box score, you'll notice Joe Burrow had a very, very silent day. But please remember that Mike Gesicki dropped the ball in the end zone, bobbled that. He had a touchdown pass there. He rolls out on a PA bootleg to the left, throws a 40-yard strike downfield. Andre Ilyasovas dropped it. Jamar Chase is on a limited snap count this game. No T. Higgins. So there was fantasy points left on the table. And believe it or not, Joe Burrow should have probably thrown 2 touchdown passes. Skill position guys didn't come through for him in this week. I'm not worried about Joe Burrow. Just relax.
Yeah, before we move on, this has got to be one of the lowest passing yard totals to start the season, maybe ever. I don't have any stats in front of me to say this, but only 8 quarterbacks threw more than 250 yards in week 1. That's rough. One of them including Lamar Jackson and Gardner Minshew. So we're talking about guys that really don't have any business throwing 250. I mean, Love was under 250, Stroud, Burrow, Herbert, all these guys that are supposed to be top quarterbacks in the league, didn't really throw for a whole lot of yards. I think a lot of the fantasy busts this week, contributed to that. Receivers didn't really get a whole lot going. I'm looking for week 1. I'm trying not to overreact to the lack of passing yards and wait to see what week 2 holds before I get too worried about most of these receivers.
Right. And realistically, only 4 QBs in the totality of week 1 threw 2 touchdowns or more. Derek Carr, Josh Allen, Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts. 2 came in on a Friday night game. That's it.
Right.
Nobody else threw 2 or more touchdowns. So overall, it was a weird week, but the running backs dominated.
Yeah.
So I will say it's good to see the position back dominating, playing well. So let's get into our booms for the week. We each have 2 booms that we want to talk about.
I bet. You want to kick this one off? Hit us with your first of the week.
Yeah, my first boom is Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
It's the easiest boom to talk about. Anybody that can draw 21 targets in a single game, bring in 14 catches, we're pushing over 100 receiving yards and a touchdown. Cooper Kupp was drafted in the 4th or 5th round. Cooper Kupp's playing that's a first round wide receiver performance here. 2 years ago, we know Cooper Kupp was pushing for the receiving crown, and we're back. That's where we're at.
Yeah,
he's dominated. He's played great to start the year. Puka goes down with a knee injury on the IR, looking to miss at least 4 games. At this point, the Rams offense runs through Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
Get him in your lineups. Do not sit Cooper Kupp for any reason. Doesn't matter. Cooper Kupp is going to dominate fantasy football.
Yeah, I don't think there's any position where you're sitting Cooper Kupp, even if you draft it in the 5th round. But nonetheless, that 4th, 5th round pick you got him for, he's going to be a 1st, 2nd round value by the end of the year, especially with this week 4 injury for Puka. That just adds fuel to the fire. All that being said, my first boom of the week is Jordan Mason. We touched on him earlier. Absolute shot out of a cannon. Now, did anybody start Jordan Mason? Probably not many, considering, we didn't know CMC wasn't starting until in 2 hours before the game started?
Not even that. It came in about 45 minutes before game time.
Yeah. So depending on how it goes, you probably didn't have a spot to put him in, considering it was that Monday night game. So you probably didn't start him. But he goes for 28 carries, 147 yards, and a score. Looked absolutely great out there in a spot start from CMC. With what I'm hearing from CMC, he's got Achilles tendonitis, which you hear Achilles with running back in the same sentence, and you need to start panicking immediately. They're going to take care of him. I think I saw something where the typical window is 4 to 6 weeks for Achilles tendonitis. We'll see what it is with CMC. We don't know the severity yet, but it sounds a whole lot worse than they were making it out to be. Whether it be re-aggravation or what it is, Jordan Mason's probably your starting running back for the 49ers going forward.
Yeah, and it really sucks that Jordan Mason had the media coverage he did because he said he found out he would be starting on Friday. So I know with how the NFL handles their betting and all this, that everybody's worried about if the 49ers are going to get in trouble or the NFL is going to sweep this under the rug. But nonetheless, we should not take anything away from Jordan Mason. Jordan Mason had a great game. He's never seen this kind of volume in the NFL. He never saw this kind of volume at Georgia Tech.
True.
But the Shanahan coaching tree, shines again. Mike Shanahan did this. He had one of the greatest run games of all time in the 90s in Denver. His son Kyle now gets to build upon that and do his thing. And any running back, I shouldn't say any, but most running backs can thrive in a Shanahan offense.
Yeah.
Jordan Mason is the top priority waiver wire pickup of the week.
For sure.
Phenomenal start from Jordan Mason. It was awesome to watch. Congratulations.
Especially if you got him late in your drafts. That's going to look good for a few weeks.
Right.
But the only thing I got to say is, I would love to see the catches go up for him. I don't know if 147 yards is sustainable, but I think he can build upon one catch for 5 yards.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you watch the game and watch the way they played it, I think it was a very simplistic offense.
Right.
They dumbed it down a lot for Jordan Mason. I'm sure he will get involved more in the receiving game. I can't expect him to have a Christian McCaffrey type workload. No. I can never ask anybody of that workload.
Yeah.
But overall, if I'm seeing a running back, especially an undrafted running back in our drafts, garnishing anywhere from 18 to 23 touches a week, yeah.
Go get Jordan Mason.
Yeah, go get Jordan Mason.
All right, next boom. Go ahead.
So I bounced back between 3 players, and I think they all deserve love, so I'm going to name them. You got Ken Walker, you got Joe Mixon, and you got Ramondre Stevenson. But I want to talk about Ramondre Stevenson. We all know Mixon was drafted. We know Mixon was in that running back dead zone where he was going to lead your guys as that running back 2 who had the chance to be a running back 1. Same with Ken Walker. So with Stevenson, we're talking about him in the Aaron Jones, James Conner, Najee Harris type skill set guys. But I want to talk about him because we're 2 years removed from an overall running back 8 finish. We're talking about a guy who had over 1,000 yards, 75 receptions, and a guy who had a really decent season for the Patriots before Zeke was there last year. With Ramondre last week, we can say last week, he had 25 touches, 120 rushing yards, and a score. He also pitched in 3 catches, didn't do much on the receiving side with 6 yards. Okay, but he still got you 3 extra points, with 3 catches. He's involved. He's a true 3-down back. 120 yards. 108 yards came after contact. He forced 12 missed tackles in this game. Huge game from Ramondre Stevenson. I think he is my boom of the week. I think he deserves some love. Like I said, I know Joe Mixon and Ken Walker had monster games. Cool. They were expected to.
Right.
Ramondre Stevenson, we were a little on the fence.
Oh, absolutely on the fence. We didn't know how this Patriots offense was going to look, but if it runs through Stevenson and then that's what we get from here on out, it's looking good for Ramondre.
Also, I do want to say, though, remember how we discussed the Bengals and how they were stagnant in free agency?
Yeah.
Their defense looked horrible.
Yeah. For sure. The whole game was a disaster, if I'm honest with you, on both sides. But Ramondre did shine and through all that, so good on him. My last boom, he's on the thumbnail. I had to include him. Jaden Reed had 4 catches for 138 yards and a score. That's some Randy Moss type shit. Dude absolutely balled on the field. Also had 1 carry for 33 yards and a score. Look, there's no real wide receiver 1 for this Packers offense. But I can tell you one thing. They absolutely look for Jaden Reed to be the guy to make these explosive plays. They're the ones that are kind of scheming for him to go out there and make a play with the ball in his hands. You saw it all game. Every catch he had, all 4 of them, had plenty of space to make a play on the ball and make a run for it. They schemed great for him. I had to put him in for a boom of the week because I don't think we're going to see him a while in the boom of the week. We saw Jordan Love go down. We don't know how long he's going to be out for. But my boy Jaden Reed went out there and balled week 1. Probably won a ton of matchups for you guys in the flex spot. Kid looked great out there. He's always electric with the ball in his hand.
Yeah, you say there's no wide receiver 1 on the Packers. I think that statement's wrong. I think it is Jaden Reed.
I think it is too, but I mean, you look at 4 catches and you want more for a wide receiver 1.
And you want more than 6 targets. I get it.
Yeah.
But with that being said, any way they can get the ball in his hands, this kid's electric.
Yeah.
He is the best playmaker on the roster. He is electric with the ball in his hands. He can make anything happen. You saw it with the 33-yard end around. You saw the dude turn his touchdown catch into a 45-yard touchdown catch. Any play he can make happen. He can make it happen. And this is against a revamped Eagle secondary. We're talking about multiple first-round picks in the first round, and Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, Darius Slay is out there. C.J. Gardner-Johnson comes back. There's a lot of revampedness to this Eagles secondary, and he exploited it.
Yeah.
Looks great.
Looked amazing out there.
Great.
I think it's going to be rough with Malik and Clifford for Jaden Reed for the next few weeks. So I'm not going to say bench the guy, but I would at least this week. I hate to say that from a guy who's on my boom list, but I would proceed with caution until we see what this Packers offense looks like. I don't know if I'm in starting any Packers outside of Josh Jacobs next week.
Yeah.
Just a caveat, but Jordan Reed looked great. You want to move on a bus, or is there any other games you wanted to touch on? Or
no, let's go to our bus. Let's go to our bus.
Bet. Run it
so
up.
My first bus, Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
So, to be honest with you, I haven't seen anything meaningful from Deshaun Watson for 5 years.
It has been a while from his
and at this point,
back-to-back QB4 seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was great. He was great in Houston. And now there's another sexual assault allegation that's being investigated. I don't know what to think of it. At this point, if he's on your Dynasty roster, nobody's going to buy him from you. You're going to go down with the ship.
Stuck. Yeah.
Sucks. It's tough. So last week he was 0 of 15 on any throw over 15 yards. He was not delivering the ball well. It wasn't good. The only positive I saw from this whole thing was Jerome Ford, another running back with a great start.
Yeah.
The Browns look bad. Deshaun Watson in general looked really bad. And
yeah, it looked tough. I mean, sailing a ton of throws, throwing behind receivers. I mean, name a bad throw, he probably made it. It was rough, and I get what they drew the Cowboys. So I mean, I know you got Micah Parsons in your face all game, which is rough. Like, that defense is no joke. But there was a few times where he literally threw the ball to CD on the sidelines, and CD's mitts 5 yards out of bounds. I mean, he looks rough. It looks like he didn't really. I don't know what happened this offseason. I thought, like, okay, last year was a down year, but maybe this year we see something. It's not there anymore, guys. It's gone. Which is sad.
I mean, when you have $263 million in your pocket, it doesn't matter.
That's true.
It is the worst contract in NFL history.
Yeah, and so much of that was guaranteed at the time too. So it's
all guaranteed.
Yeah. All of it?
It's all guaranteed, bud.
Yeah, see, that's tough. He got the bag, though. I'll give it to him. That's going to go down as one of the worst quarterback contracts in history. It's going to be up there with Daniel Jones. So
it's all guaranteed.
That's tough. My first bust of the week is tragic in my mind. This is someone I was really, really excited for. Somebody me and Steve were talking up all offseason. We're big Dynasty guys. We've been on this guy for the last 3 years. It's Marvin Harrison. He looked sluggish out there. It wasn't crisp on his routes. I mean, obviously there's a few times in game, I think we all saw it, where he did get a few steps on guys and Kyler just missed him. But for the most part, he looked lackadaisical out there, not like himself. And that resulted in 1 catch for 4 yards on only 3 targets. Less than a 10% target share. That's not what you want out of a guy in startup. So you probably take him at the front of the second and then redraft early third, late second. Like, you drop it down on your roster, a total of 1.3 points. I don't know how much I'm really worried about him. We haven't seen him play football in a while. He had that whole weird holdout thing with Fanatics, and really wasn't practicing a whole lot. So I'm hoping this is something he can put behind him. But week 1 for Marvin Harrison looked rough.
Yeah, so the saving grace I have was we all saw the big play that Kyler Murray missed him on the sideline.
Yeah,
Easy 50-yard touchdown, walk-in,
for
touchdown,
sure. Yeah,
blown coverage, but it was missed. Overall, in the second half, Kyler Murray didn't look good.
it's true.
The first half, Kyler Murray had 40 rushing yards and had almost 160 passing yards, and he ended the game with 230. You know what I mean? So Kyler Murray, at that point, he already threw his touchdown pass in the first half. He just didn't look good in the second half.
Right.
I thought there were times where, especially the fumble, where Kyler Murray was trying to do too much with his legs. We all know that that's how he plays. And sometimes it comes to bite you in the ass, and it bit Kyler in the ass in the second half because the Bills' defense isn't good. They're not. There's a lot of change on the defensive side of the ball, and I wasn't impressed with Kyler in the second half. The first half, he played great.
Yeah.
So let's hope they revamp. Let's hope they get back to what they do. Trey McBride had 9 targets, but he ended the game with 5 for 30. Greg Dortch leads the team in targets and receiving yards. I don't expect that trend to continue. So I look for Marvin Harrison Jr. to have a bigger workload in week 2.
Yeah. Panic level, not too high for me. You?
Panic level 0.
0? Yeah. I'm down there at the 1s and 0s. So
0.
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson, 10.
Oh, yeah. No, it's he looked rough, man. That's about as bad as it gets. 10. Sure. All right, next up on the bus for you.
Drake London.
Yeah. Tough. I mean, we touched on it with Kirk Cousins a little bit, but
so when Ray McLeod leads your team in targets, something's wrong. Something's wrong.
Right.
So with Drake London, me and you had discussed this. The whole fantasy industry automatically notched him as a top 10, top 12 wide receiver in redraft. But he never finished inside the top 35 in fantasy points per game for a wide receiver.
Right.
His target share dropped from year 1 to year 2. It dropped. And I know we're talking about Desmond Ridder QB play here. But we're talking about a guy who's never had a top 35 season, let alone a top 25 season or a top 15 season.
Right.
We always asked, what makes Drake London top 12 eligible? It's Kirk Cousins. That's what the answer was. It's Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins is going to force feed these wide receivers. Kirk Cousins is going to, be the QB that they never had. He's going to be the savior for the Atlanta Falcons offense. They have a top 5 offensive line to help him with the Achilles injury. And I'll be honest with you, I don't want to own anybody on this team outside of Bijan. I know Kyle Pitts scored, but Kyle Pitts had 3 catches for 26 yards.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of it leads to Kirk Cousins. We get him going, I think we'll be okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we did see Desmond Ridder level football out of Kirk Cousins this week. Let's be honest with ourselves. Like, he did not look like himself at all. And until that changes, I'm a little bit worried about the Falcons. No, to the point where I'm like sitting London and Pitts. I don't think so yet. I don't think I'm sitting, but I'm a little bit concerned. Yeah.
Yeah. And remember, we're not talking about Pitts after his rookie year, tight end 2, extremely hype, tight end here going into year 2. Kyle Pitts was coming in at tight end 10, tight end 11 in redraft. Yeah. There was some value with Pitts. There was no value with Drake London. Not at all.
That's very true.
We're talking about a top 12 wide receiver. If you're drafting him, you need wide receiver 1 production from the door. And you're not getting it. You're not going to get it.
Nope. I could say that at least. You're not going to get that high round value that you probably drafted him at. All right. Now, I don't want to blanket this as like a whole tight end thing. We'll get into it, but I'll talk about Dalton Kincaid for a second here, who I think a lot of us had pegged in the fantasy community and community in general. Had him pegged as probably like a top 5 guy, lock it in this season. And he was drafted as such. He was inside the top 5 drafted tight ends. I think in premiums, he was going pretty high. I think everybody thought this was going to be Josh Allen's go-to man, especially because we saw the target share late last season skyrocket. And this game, he goes out there, only 2 targets and 1 catch for 11 yards. Outplayed by Dalton Knox, who had 2 catches for 23 yards. I'm a little bit worried about Kincaid, man. Like, that's like almost not involved at all in this Bills offense, who scored 4 times. More than that, I think. Was it just 4 times?
What'd you say?
Yeah, Bills only scored 4 times.
Bills scored 4 times, yes, but
Yeah.
2 were on the ground.
2 on the ground, 2 through the air. Kincaid was barely involved. I think we had drafted him, especially in Dynasty startups and tight end premiums. That's rough. What's the true panic level for you for Dalton Kincaid, though?
2.
2.
I'm not worried about Kincaid. I believe Josh Allen only threw the ball 23 times. I know it was a weird target distribution. You had James Cook with 3 targets, Keon Coleman with 5, Kincaid with what, 2?
2.
He was 2.
Knox had 3. So
Knox had 3, right? But again, it was just one of those games where once the Bills were up, they were up. And remember, once the offensive scheme changed, they ran the ball very heavily. But I do think talent will always rise to the top. I'm not a fan of Keon Coleman. I'm not, never have been. I don't believe Keon Coleman's going to come close to leading this wide receiver room in targets. Some people say Curtis Samuel, which is a good answer. I like Curtis Samuel. Khalil Shakir, I like him too. But it's always Kincaid. Kincaid is the overgrown wide receiver, playing the slot, playing however they line him up. He's very multi-versatile. I think the talent will show. I'm not willing to give up on any of the top 5 tight ends. We saw Mark Andrews with a bad matchup. He was bracketed all game. We saw Kelsey 34 yards. We saw LaPorta 45 yards. We saw McBride 30. Honestly, the best tight end was a rookie tight end last week. That's Brock Bowers.
No, it was actually, believe it or not, Foster Morneau. Got 12.
Okay, that's fine. Points. But anybody that's on our radar, it was Brock Bowers.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at the tight end rankings because I feel like a lot of them all do bad. Tight end 1 right now is Foster Morneau with 12.3 points. Like,
right.
As a whole, every tight end busted.
Right. Ingram had 1 catch for 5 yards.
Jesus. Tough, especially because he got targeted so much last year.
Right.
Tight end 2 last year. Couldn't see him last week either, but
it's early, man. It's early.
Yeah. And then that's why I say it too, is like I go back to the passing yards thing. I think from here on out, this is probably the lowest we're going to see. We're going to start seeing these quarterbacks get up over 250. But like I said, only 8 quarterbacks over 250. I think these receivers are going to bounce back in the coming weeks. I'm not really too worried about it a whole lot. But what I am excited about for the first time in years, if you could take away anything from this episode, is the running backs position. As of week 1, it's back, baby.
It's back.
It's back. Ton of running backs looked great last week.
It's back. Anything else you want to say before we get out of here, buddy?
I'm all wrapped up over here. You got anything for the people?
No, but we are back for the weekly segments. This is going to be a weekly thing.
Yeah. Also,
on my work weeks from 8 to 4, we do a start-sit segment every week.
Look out for that.
So start-sits, whether it be, I believe it'll be Friday night. There's almost 200 people in here. So if you have any fantasy questions going into the weekend, I know Higgins is questionable. I know there's a lot of people that are questionable. I know people are worried about Jamar Chase and like his workload, Ayuk's workload. So if you have any questions, bring it to us. We're always here. Twitter or the podcast, we're here. I think it's going to do Friday night. We're going to do that Friday night.
Sounds good to me.
Friday night. Other than that,
back with this next Tuesday as well. 8 same time next week.
Other than that, we will be back soon, guys. We are excited to be back. Thank you so much for tuning in. And on that note, we are out.